Imagine a world without electricity. Well, in today's scenario, we can't even think of living in such a condition. Tell us honestly, how many of you can stay for 10 minutes without using electric fans or heaters? We're certain that no hand was raised. We've become very much dependent on the use of electricity and its related devices. But who was behind this greatest invention? It was none other than Thomas Alva Edison. It was his contribution to human society that we're living such a wonderful life. In today's video, let's dig into his past and see what it has in store for us. So, without further ado, let's get started. Edison took birth to his father Samuel Ogden Edison Jr. and his mother Nancy Matthew Elliott as their last and seventh child on the 11th of February 1847 in the city of Millen, situated in Ohio. He grew up in Port Huron of Michigan as the family shifted there after his birth. His family was Dutch by origin, his father's family to be more precise. Initially, they used Edison as their surname, but gradually changed it to Edison when his grandpa ran from New Jersey to Nova Scotia. Edison's mother was not just a housewife, but an educated woman who was a schoolteacher by profession. He learned to read and write and received his primary arithmetic education from his mother. He was not a long-term student in school, as he went to the school just for a few months. Some people wrote Edison to be a very curious kid who learned things by reading himself. During his childhood, Edison got interested in technology and would immerse himself in experiments for hours. However, he met with a tragic incident when hearing problems started showing up at 12. It was not some sudden incident, but it was a result of continuous scarlet fever in his childhood and neglected infections in the middle ear. Later on, he made up long imaginary stories elaborating on the cause of his deafness. Let's reveal a very interesting fact about Edison. We're certain that you all were unaware of this. As per sources, Edison was deaf in one ear and could hardly hear in the other one. And because of this, he would grab the wood piece of piano or the music to absorb the sound waves. Well, we are really confused as to consider him brilliant or to think of it like this or feel bad for the poor kid. But as he matured, he considered his hearing loss as one of his strengths rather than weaknesses. He observed that due to his hearing loss, he was able to concentrate in a better manner on his work and avoid distractions in the early phases of his career. He got into the Cooper Union for the advancement of science and art under a chemistry course. This was his first and last enrollment in an educational organization. Thomas Edison is known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, right? But do you know how he started his career? What did he do to sustain himself? Let's hear it out. He was a vendor selling candies, newspapers, and vegetables on trains that ran from Port Huron to Detroit. By the age of 13, he used to earn a profit of $50 per week, which mostly went into buying some equipment for his experiments. After a while, Edison joined as a telegraph operator after saving little Jamie Mackenzie from being hit by a train. The incident made J.U. Mackenzie grateful to Edison, and out of that gratitude, he offered him a job as a telegraph operator. His first job was away from his home at Stratford Junction, situated on the Grand Trunk Railway. Edison gained the right to sell newspapers, and along with 4 assistants, he came up with the Grand Trunk Herald and sold it beside the other papers. This was the beginning of his career as an entrepreneur, as he realized his potential as a businessman. Finally, he was able to establish 14 companies comprising General Electricity, which is still considered to be one of the most important publicly traded companies in the world. Edison shifted to Kentucky at the age of 19 to work as an employee under the Western Union. Edison was given the night shift at his request, as this enabled him to have enough time for his reading and research work. But this did not suit him much. It's not unknown that Edison had been curious since his childhood, and out of this, when he was working with a lead-acid battery, accidentally he spilled sulfuric acid on the floor, which flowed down under the boss's table. And as expected, he was fired the next morning. One of the greatest achievements of Edison was the establishment of a research lab that was developed in Menlo Park. Now, after the establishment, Edison would obviously require manpower to run his lab, right? So Edison hired a consulting electrical engineer to work under him as a laboratory assistant named William Joseph Hammer. He was given the responsibility to assist Edison in many of his experiments, such as the telephone, phonograph, electric lighting, and many more. Nevertheless, he was mainly to look after the progress of the incandescent electric lamp and carry out the tests and records of that device. After a few years, he was promoted to the post of chief engineer of the Edison Lamp Works. The first year of lamp production saw the manufacturing of 50,000 lamps. Edison called Hammer to be a pioneer of incandescent electric lighting. The laboratory gained a reputation and expanded in no time. The lab took up 2 city blocks. Edison told his workers that his lab should have a stock of every usable material out there. This was confirmed by an 1887 article in one of the newspapers, which also showed how serious Edison was regarding this matter. The article said, 8,000 kinds of chemicals, every kind of screw made, every size of needle, every kind of cord or wire, hair of humans, horses, hogs, cows, rabbits, goats, minks, camels, silk in every texture, cocoons, various kinds of hooves, shark's teeth, deer horns, tortoise shell, cork, resin, varnish, and oil, ostrich feathers, a peacock's tail, jet, amber, rubber, all ores, and the list never stops. Newark marks Edison's journey as an inventor with his little inventions such as the automatic repeater and improved telegraphic devices. But these were not the ones that gained him a reputation. His invention of the phonograph made him famous in the year 1887. Now we present you with a small part of the recording of Thomas Edison on his phonograph.
Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. It followed her to school one day, but now the lamb is dead. But it still goes to school with her between 2 chunks of bread.
The common people didn't expect this creation, and therefore they thought it to be some kind of magic and started calling him the Wizard of Menlo Park. Although his phonograph did not record in very high quality, it certainly made Edison a famous figure within very few days. Carbon telephone transmitter. Wondering what the thing is? What if we say that you're pretty much aware of this device? This is nothing but the microphone in our telephones. So Edison started his work to better the quality of the transmitter used by making a carbon transmitter having 2 metal plates that were separated by minute carbon granules. The granules were used to adjust the resistance in accordance with the pressure of the sound waves. Now, a steady direct current was allowed to pass through this setup, which eventually created the changing pressure of the sound wave. Before Edison, the microphones invented by Sir Johann Rice and Sir Graham Bell were not that efficient and employed a weak current. But in this microphone, Edison modified the setup and created a better one that could modulate the current passing through it. In the year 1878, Edison started his work on electrical illumination with the hope that maybe it could be an alternative to gas and oil-based lighting. The first step he took was to improve his incandescent lamps and make them long-lasting for indoor use. Want to know a shocking fact? It was not Thomas Edison who came up with the idea of the light bulb. It was invented by a British scientist named Warren de la Rue using a platinum filament. But this did not reach the public because of the high cost of platinum. The bulbs developed earlier had flaws that had a very short life and needed a high electric current, and all these factors made it very tough to produce them on a large scale. Edison and his fellow workers tried months after months using various materials for filament and applied for the patent. Finally, after a while, they found out that the carbonized bamboo filament could last for a very long time, approximately 12,000 hours. Thus, he was awarded the patent for this. After a few years, Edison came up with the Edison Electric Light Company. During Edison's public demonstration, he said, "We will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles." So with this, we've come to the end of the video. This was the tale of a deaf boy who was determined to help the common man with his inventions. We hope it was inspiring for you. Do like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to press the bell icon.